Qatar, the harsh beginnings, life before wealth. Today, Qatar stands as a testament to remarkable transformation, showcasing world-class infrastructure and visionary urban development. The country is defined by its striking skyline of architectural landmarks, an advanced and efficient transportation network, beautifully landscaped parks, and thoughtfully planned green spaces integrated throughout its cities. Modern Qatar reflects a sophisticated lifestyle, blending tradition with innovation. Its residents enjoy high living standards supported by cutting-edge amenities, cultural institutions, and sustainable urban planning. At the same time, Qatar has emerged as a premier global destination, attracting visitors from across the world. Affluent travelers are drawn to its luxury hotels, state-of-the-art resorts, and exceptional hospitality offerings. In just a few decades, the nation has evolved into a vibrant hub for tourism, business, and international events, redefining itself as one of the most dynamic and modern countries in the region. Before oil, before gas, before glass towers rose above the Gulf, Qatar was a land defined by scarcity. For much of its early history, this small peninsula was home to only a few tens of thousands of people. The climate was unforgiving. Scorching summers, limited rainfall, and almost no natural freshwater sources. There were no rivers, no fertile farmland, and no major agricultural output. Survival required adaptation. Most Qataris lived in simple homes made from coral stone, limestone, mud, or palm fronds. In coastal towns, houses were tightly clustered, designed to create shade and trap cooler air. In the desert, Bedouin families lived in woven goat hair tents that could be dismantled and moved with the seasons. Comfort was minimal. Air conditioning did not exist. Electricity would not arrive for decades. Economic opportunities were extremely limited. The primary sources of income were fishing, pearling, small-scale trade, and herding camels or goats. During pearling season, men spent months at sea aboard wooden dhow boats, diving repeatedly into deep waters without modern equipment. They were paid only if valuable pearls were found. A bad season meant debt. A poor catch could mean hunger. There was little formal education. Most children, especially boys, attended small religious schools known as kutabs, where they learned to read and memorize the Quran. Literacy rates were low, and advanced education required traveling abroad, something only a few families could afford. For many, survival skills mattered more than schooling. Healthcare was basic and limited. There were no modern hospitals. Illnesses that are easily treated today could become fatal. Infant mortality rates were high, and life expectancy was significantly shorter than it is now. Financially, Qatar had almost no reserves. Wealth was concentrated in a small merchant class, while the majority of the population lived modestly, often in debt to boat owners or pearl traders. When the global pearl market collapsed in the 1930s, the economic impact was devastating. Poverty deepened. Some families migrated in search of work. Those who remained relied heavily on tribal solidarity and mutual support. This was Qatar before transformation, a society built on resilience, faith, and endurance. A community that survived not because the land was generous, but because its people were determined. The Pearl era of Qatar in the early 1900s, pearls were Qatar's lifeline. The sea was not just a source of food, it was the nation's only path to income. Each year, as the summer heat intensified, thousands of men set sail aboard wooden dhow boats, venturing deep into the Arabian Gulf. For months at a time, they lived at sea, diving again and again into dark waters with nothing but a nose clip, a rope, and their breath. Each descent was a gamble. Divers plunged up to 20 meters below the surface, searching blindly for oyster shells. Their ears rang from pressure, their lungs burned, and exhaustion was constant. Yet the promise of a single perfect pearl kept them going. Entire families depended on the success of each season. At its peak, the pearling industry sustained nearly all of Qatar's economy. But this fragile prosperity depended entirely on global markets. Then, almost overnight, it collapsed. The Great Depression reduced luxury spending across the world. At the same time, Japanese cultured pearls flooded international markets, offering a cheaper and more accessible alternative. Demand for natural pearls vanished. By the 1930s, Qatar's economy had crumbled, leaving it among the poorest regions in the Gulf. The discovery, by the late 1930s, Qatar was struggling to recover from the collapse of the pearl trade. Poverty had spread across coastal towns, and many families faced an uncertain future. The sea, once generous, no longer provided enough to sustain the population. It was during this period of hardship that a quiet but historic breakthrough occurred. In 1939, oil was discovered in Qatar's Dhow field on the country's western coast. For a nation on the brink of economic despair, the discovery offered a glimmer of hope. However, progress was not immediate. The outbreak of the Second World War delayed development, and large-scale extraction had to wait. It was not until 1949 that Qatar exported its first shipment of oil. That moment marked the beginning of a new era. Gradually, oil revenues began transforming the country. Dirt paths evolved into paved roads. Basic housing gave way to more permanent structures. Electricity, modern healthcare, and formal education slowly became accessible to the population. Government institutions strengthened and public services expanded. Yet oil alone did not instantly create immense wealth. The transformation was steady, not explosive. But the discovery changed something fundamental. It shifted Qatar's trajectory. For the first time in its history, the nation possessed a resource capable of redefining its future. Beneath the desert sands lay not just oil, but opportunity, the foundation of modern Qatar. Independence and Leadership Vision, 1971. In 1971, Qatar reached a defining moment in its history. After decades under British protection, the country formally declared independence, stepping onto the global stage as a sovereign state. For the first time, Qatar would fully control its own political direction, its foreign policy, and most importantly, its natural resources. Under the leadership of Sheikh Khalifa bin Hamad Al Thani, who assumed power shortly after independence, the nation began shaping its own development strategy. Oil revenues were no longer managed under external oversight. Decisions about infrastructure, public services, and national priorities were now firmly in Qatari hands. This period marked a shift from survival to state building. Government institutions strengthened. Public housing projects expanded. Education systems developed further. Healthcare services improved. The foundations of a modern state were taking shape. Yet despite these advances, Qatar was not yet the global powerhouse it would later become. Oil had provided stability and growth, but the scale of transformation remained limited. The skyline was modest. The population was small. The economy was still largely dependent on a single resource. Independence gave Qatar control, but the dramatic rise to extraordinary wealth and global influence was still ahead. The true transformation would come with a bold vision and a resource far greater than oil. The game changer. Natural gas. If oil stabilized Qatar, natural gas transformed it. Beneath the waters of the Arabian Gulf lies the North Field, one of the largest natural gas reserves ever discovered in the world. For years, its vast potential remained largely untapped. But in the late 20th century, Qatar made a bold and strategic decision that would redefine its future. Rather than relying solely on crude oil exports, Qatar chose to invest heavily in liquefied natural gas, LNG. This was not a small undertaking. LNG requires complex processing facilities, specialized tankers, and long-term international contracts. It demands billions of dollars in infrastructure and a willingness to think decades ahead. Qatar committed to a massive, long-term investment strategy. It built state-of-the-art liquefaction plants, expanded port facilities, and secured partnerships with major global energy consumers in Asia and Europe. The country positioned itself not just as a supplier, but as a reliable and dominant force in the global gas market. The results were extraordinary. Qatar rose to become the world's largest exporter of LNG, supplying energy to economies across continents. Revenue surged, sovereign wealth expanded, infrastructure accelerated at unprecedented speed. Natural gas did more than generate income, it elevated Qatar into an energy superpower. Within a generation, the country achieved one of the highest GDP per capita levels in the world. The decision to harness LNG was the true turning point, the moment when Qatar shifted from regional producer to global powerhouse. The modern architect of Qatar, in 1995, Qatar entered a new and decisive chapter. A leadership transition brought Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani to power, a leader whose vision would accelerate the nation's transformation at an unprecedented pace. This was more than political change, it was a strategic shift. Under Sheikh Hamad's leadership, Qatar aggressively expanded its natural gas production, doubling down on LNG infrastructure and securing long-term global energy contracts. The country moved from being a significant exporter to becoming a dominant force in international energy markets. Revenues multiplied, and with them came ambition. But modernization extended far beyond energy. In 1996, the launch of Al Jazeera positioned Qatar as a major voice in global media. For the first time, a small Gulf nation was influencing international conversations and reshaping regional journalism. Education became another cornerstone of transformation. The development of Education City brought world-class universities and research institutions to Doha, signaling a commitment to knowledge, innovation, and long-term sustainability. At the same time, global investments expanded through sovereign wealth strategies, diversifying Qatar's financial portfolio across continents. The skyline of Doha began to rise dramatically. Architectural landmarks such as the Museum of Islamic Art symbolized cultural confidence. Luxury developments like the Pearl Qatar showcased modern ambition. Glass towers reshaped the horizon, reflecting a nation redefining itself. This was the pivotal moment when Qatar transitioned from simply being wealthy to becoming globally powerful. Global influence and soft power. As Qatar's economic power expanded, so did its global ambitions. The nation understood that true influence in the modern world is not measured only by wealth or energy exports, but by visibility, partnerships, and cultural presence. This was the era in which Qatar moved confidently onto the world stage. Hosting major international events became a key strategy. By welcoming global summits, cultural festivals, and sporting competitions, Qatar positioned itself as a meeting point between East and West. Infrastructure mega projects reshaped the country. New highways, ports, airports, and an advanced metro system signaled that Qatar was building not just for its population, but for the world. Aviation played a central role in this vision. Through the rapid growth of Qatar Airways, the country transformed into a global transit hub, connecting continents through Doha. The airline became a symbol of precision, luxury, and international reach. Sports diplomacy further strengthened Qatar's soft power. By investing in global sporting partnerships and facilities, the nation leveraged athletics as a bridge across cultures. The defining moment came in 2022, when Qatar hosted the 2022 FIFA World Cup, the first World Cup ever held in the Middle East. It was a bold statement of arrival. In less than a century, Qatar had journeyed from fishing boats anchored along quiet shores to hosting the world. The costs and complexities Qatar's transformation has been extraordinary, but like all rapid development stories, it carries complexities that add depth to its narrative. One of the most discussed aspects of Qatar's rise has been its reliance on a large migrant workforce. As infrastructure projects accelerated and cities expanded, hundreds of thousands of workers from Asia and other regions arrived to help build the nation's roads, stadiums, towers, and transport systems. Their labor played a critical role in shaping modern Qatar. At the same time, international scrutiny has focused on labor conditions, worker welfare, and reforms introduced in recent years. These conversations form an important part of the country's modern story. Environmental challenges present another reality. Qatar's desert climate means extreme heat, scarce natural fresh water, and high energy consumption. Rapid urbanization has increased demand for desalination, electricity, and cooling. As a major energy producer, balancing economic growth with sustainability remains a central challenge for the future. There is also the question of resource dependency. Despite diversification efforts, hydrocarbons still account for a significant portion of national revenue. The global shift toward renewable energy places long-term pressure on energy-exporting nations to innovate and adapt. Finally, Qatar's demographic structure is unique. Citizens form a relatively small percentage of the total population, while expatriates make up the majority of residents. This creates a dynamic social and economic structure that requires careful policy management. These complexities do not diminish Qatar's achievement. They contextualize it. They remind us that rapid transformation brings both opportunity and responsibility. Education and future vision. As Qatar looks beyond the era of rapid energy-driven expansion, its focus has shifted toward building a sustainable and knowledge-based future. At the center of this transformation is a clear strategy. Invest in people, innovation, and long-term resilience. One of the most visible symbols of this ambition is Education City, a vast academic hub that brings together international universities, research centers, and innovation institutions within a single campus. Designed to cultivate talent and foster global collaboration, Education City reflects Qatar's commitment to developing human capital as its most valuable resource. Technology and research have become national priorities. Investments in artificial intelligence, renewable energy, biomedical research, and smart infrastructure signal a deliberate move toward diversification. The goal is not simply to export energy, but to generate ideas, solutions, and intellectual leadership. This long-term strategy is formalized in Qatar National Vision 2030, a comprehensive development framework aimed at balancing economic growth with social development and environmental sustainability. The vision emphasizes diversification beyond hydrocarbons, encouraging sectors such as finance, tourism, logistics, education, and technology to expand. Under the leadership of Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the nation continues to prioritize sustainability and innovation. The emphasis is clear. Prepare for a post-hydrocarbon future where prosperity is driven not only by natural gas, but by knowledge, adaptability, and global integration. Qatar's next chapter is no longer about discovering resources beneath the ground. It is about unlocking potential within its people. From the quiet shores where pearl divers once searched the depths of the sea, to the towering skyline that now defines Doha, Qatar's journey is nothing short of remarkable. In less than a century, this small desert peninsula transformed itself from economic hardship into one of the most influential and wealthiest nations in the world. It is a story of resilience, bold decisions, visionary leadership, and the courage to think beyond limitations. But beyond the statistics and skyscrapers, Qatar's story is ultimately about transformation, about how a nation can redefine its destiny through strategy, ambition, and belief in its future. If you enjoyed exploring this journey from pearls to power, make sure to support the channel. Like this video, share it with others who are fascinated by global transformations, and subscribe for more in-depth travel documentaries uncovering the hidden stories behind the world's most extraordinary places. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next journey.